Hey everyone, Ariel Adams here. Welcome to Spending Time, the aBlogtoWatch podcast. I'm here with David Breton, and we're going to be talking about our first watches, or doing our best to remember our first watches and how we got into watches. David, you have a picture of your first watch. I want to see this.
Yes, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I still actually have this watch.
Naturally, and this is your adult wrist, right?
This is my adult wrist, yeah. Okay, it's now time for jokes for people who have bigger wrists and say, oh, well, that's not an adult wrist.
What is it? Is that say Mirage?
It's a Mirage 50-meter quartz timepiece
with
military time on it. How cool is that?
Were you a small soldier?
I was, yeah, that's very true, actually. In all seriousness, I owned this watch. I was wearing this watch when I was in grammar school, so this was quite a long time ago. But I remember I was sitting there at this boring classes, and I was looking at this bezel, and this bezel was the coolest thing in the world for me because I just couldn't believe, like how it reflected light in different ways because of some of the raised elements and then the other parts. So this is just such a cool watch in my mind, at least.
So where did you acquire this watch?
Just some Chinese garbage market or something where we used to go to buy stuff.
Including garbage?
Well, this is technically...
We only wanted the finest Chinese garbage.
This is... I hate to say it, but yeah, there was a lot of actual just repackaged, just trash there.
Yeah, you saw the Mirage and you're like, this is not as garbagey.
Yes, and you see it's still here.
So how old were you? I wanna get to the bottom of this first watch.
Well, I was like maybe 10, something like that. 9, 10, something around there.
And you didn't have a watch before that?
No, I don't think so. Not that I remember.
See, the thing is, I don't remember my first watch, but my first watch came a lot earlier. I remember I had watches starting in Ultimate Zoom. I think it was preschool. I had a watch before I knew how to read.
No, that's pretty cool.
But my first watches were not digital watches.
Was it one of these?
Candy watch?
I'm just curious.
I love how you had this ready to search. So David just went to Google and he typed in candy watch. And I was like, what are you doing? and there's like. You remember those candy necklaces and bracelets?
Yes.
You could eat. They looked like Fruit Loops or something like that.
Yeah, yes.
And they were disgusting, but you couldn't stop eating them because they were like delicious looking colors. You never wanted to eat pink and green more in your life.
It's delicious garbage, I told you.
And now we're looking at Candy Watch. And there's a little watch face on here.
What is a Reverso doing here?
Wow, one of our pictures.
You Google Candy Watch.
But that's from aBlogtoWatch.
Yes.
Wow, we rank for just about everything. Okay, that is hilarious. Okay, so yours was a Mirage. Now, how long did you have this? Because I think the point we're trying to get, we want to establish what our first seminal watch experience is, right? Your first watch experience is a lot more similar to the watches we wear today than my first watch experience.
That's strange. Well, I wore it for a couple of years, and then I ended up getting a fake G-Shock. I didn't know what a real G-Shock was. All I knew that mine wasn't actually looking back, I know that it wasn't an actual G-Shock.
What makes a fake G-Shock fake? I don't understand.
Well, it's not a G-Shock.
Casio. It
looks like what is it? It's a fake watch. It looks like a G-Shock, but it's not. It's something else. It's something, I don't know. Hold on. Let me Google fake G-Shock. I didn't know. I was not expecting my date to go this way, but here I am Googling fake G-Shocks. So it wasn't any of these. It had one of these buttons down here. So it was actually pretty close to this. It didn't say G-Shock on it as far as I can remember. Actually, I'm pretty sure it didn't say G-Shock because I didn't know the brand for much after that. But I know if I press this button, it will light up, and that was also really cool, at least in my eyes back in the day.
This is I have to say I've never had a fake G-Shock. I feel like I missed out.
Well, this is what happens when you're growing up in a not very wealthy family in Eastern Europe. It's it's part of your destiny. You're predestined to own a fake G-Shock. So what was your first watch?
Best quality fake G-Shock, right? You get to show off the best quality one. My first watch was probably a Casio. and I've told you this before, and I actually still think it's a little bit, ironic and amusing. I did not know for many years that watches were sold anywhere but like sporting goods stores. So like where they sold like equipment to like play sports and like outdoor stuff for like camping and bicycle stuff and like exercise things. Like I thought that every single watch out there was specifically designed for some type of sporting thing. And then I guess people had dress watches, but like I didn't understand where those things were sold. And so I remember when like later in life, and I'm jumping ahead, I realized there was like you bought watches at jewelry stores. I was equally confused. So it wasn't until maybe 3 months ago that I really realized like why that there was like decent places to buy watches. And I'm kidding, but like it never made sense to me where watches were sold. It was like for the longest time, especially in the 80s when watches were like still very popular, you just didn't see watch stores. It was the weirdest thing. Do you ever remember as a kid ever seeing a place that just sold watches?
No, I didn't really care much about them, to be honest. I was not looking for them, to be honest. But I know what you mean.
I didn't consider myself a watch guy or like a watch thing. I wasn't an anything thing. I was just a kid. But I remember from the first time I had a watch, I was obsessed with this notion of having like a wearable gadget. And the number of functions it has, it doesn't matter what the functions were, but it was like the volume of functions. Okay, see that calculator watch? That's not my first one, but that looks like one of those watches down there, like an early version. See those ones that are like $19.
Yeah, I was going to ask what type of Casio it was, because as I was scrolling through, clearly Casio makes an amazing range and variety of watches. It's ridiculous.
I can't imagine that we would actually find it. Like I would be so surprised if we just found, because I don't know what it looks like. But it was like I was saying, it was the number of functions, and I remember like in elementary school, like on the sort of grade school thing, like the grade school yard, I would like
this is
I would
the
like
coolest
talk
thing.
to other boys.
Yeah.
So that watch right there, I had the black version of that watch on stuff. So David is looking at a Casio calculator watch. That was not my first watch, but I think it was like 4th or 5th grade that I got the calculator watch, and I was so excited about being able to cheat on like a math test, but like I never had the opportunity.
Why?
I just never had the opportunity to cheat on a math test.
You were too smart. You could just do the math like that.
No, I think I wasn't smart enough to know how to like covertly use it and actually get away with it.
Yeah, that's fine.
But the idea that you had like a watch on your wrist that could help you in school that was cool,
yeah.
like
It's
enamored
huge.
me. I never knew. And this is when the data bank one,
Yeah.
with like the letters in there.
Yes.
I still to this day have no idea what data you were supposed to enter. Like what is it that you're supposed to store in there?
My husband's a sweetheart, but he can't remember a thing. That's why I got him a Casio Databank watch and Casio Data Calculator. What's your phone number, Walter?
5550700.
When's our anniversary?
It's tomorrow.
Very good, Walter.
To remember card numbers, access codes, up to 50 things, get a Casio.
Now Walter can forget about having to remember anything. Almost.
Casio.
Can you imagine how unbelievably difficult it must be and unintuitive it must be to retrieve that data that you once put in there? Like I can't it's just ridiculous. I just wrote actually a review of the Modmaster, since we're talking about Casio here. I finished up the review on this watch today, and
Does it have a calculator?
No, but it's equally unintuitive, which is why I'm bringing it up. So I was using this watch. Actually, I had it on the shelf for like, I don't know, like 2 months now, because it's winter time. I'm not wearing it, and this watch has a thermometer. But I was like, I know it has it, but I'm not sure how it works. So I look at all the buttons, and it says adjust and mode and search and light and comp, and none of these things here is either a thermometer. So I, of course, did the thing that you always do when you own a G-Shock, and you go back and read the manual, because it's ridiculous. You have to do it. So as it turns out, you have to be in time, not in any other mode, but in time, and press the search button, and then it works. That's the only way.
Where does it show the temperature?
It shows it on the screen, up here.
Is this the first watch you ever had with a thermometer?
It's the first. Yeah, I think so.
I had one in elementary school. I remember it. I was so freaking excited about
Oh
the
yeah, I'm
thermometer.
sure.
And I never knew how to use it either. And for the longest time, you have to remember, like, I was like a young kid, right? So like my dad wasn't gonna buy me like an expensive, watch.
Like a
And so,
Bravo.
yes,
Does
yes.
anyone here remember Bravo? Oh, the good old days.
I remember the guy that ran Breva. He called me one time, like after the company ended. He's like, "Do you remember me?" And I was like, "Yes." He's like, "Oh, really?" Yeah. So I had Casios up until I was 18. I was a full-on Casio man. And I tell Casio this, and I tell them, I'm so into Japanese watches because, and Casio for that matter, because those were the first watches I wore. Today, I want to know what it is that Casio is doing to get watches on elementary school age children. Are they doing anything?
Nothing. The only thing they are doing is they're cheap. So you're like, okay, here's son, $25 Casio, and then just, if you lose it or break it, it's not the end of the world.
Okay, this is the thing. I have in my life, in the watch industry, given a fair amount of watches to family members, especially young ones. And in every instance that I gave someone who's like under 12 years old a watch, they either lost it or broke it. Every single time.
Wow. And
I
I
was
still
really
have my
upset.
trusty Mirage. Look at that.
You're a particularly responsible person. Okay, so let's go back to the early watches. So you never had a watch before. Did you notice watches on people?
No. I remember I was taught how to read the watch, or how to read a watch by my late grandmother. Like, she died when I was, I don't know, very young. I don't remember much, but I clearly remember that she taught me how to read this watch, and I was like, why is it so difficult? Why is there 24? I remember I was really frustrated that it wasn't like a nice round number like 10 or 20 or whatever, but it had to be like 24.
All right, let me ask you a weird question, okay? When you were in school, do you ever remember them teaching you how to read the time?
No.
I specifically remember either first or second grade having a day of how to read an analog like watch dial, like clock. How to read the information. Like, it was a skill. Like, you had to learn to count. You had to say like 5, 10, 15. You had to do certain things.
So wait, did you learn how to count through learning how to read the watch, or you just learned how to count and then they taught you like sort of separately how to read the watch?
No, so the learning how to read the watch didn't have anything to do with like math. It was just a separate like lesson. Oh, so cool. It was just a separate lesson that was just basically like, hey kids, here's how you read a clock. Because there was a clock in the room, and everybody wanted to know when the hell they were getting out of class, of course. And so now we could read it and know. And they actually didn't teach it that way, but they kind of did. And I remember having a hell of a time. Like, I understood the principle. Like, it was not difficult to understand. I was glad someone taught me. But for years, I hated reading it in an analog way. Like, 'cause all my wristwatches were digital. And I specifically remember thinking to myself, because I remember I would go to Big Five, which was the sporting goods store here. It's still around here in LA. I don't know how many places it is. But I would go in there and look at watches. And, of course, they had analog ones. And for the life of me, I could not understand why somebody would want an analog watch over a digital one.
Do you understand now?
Barely. No, look. It's prettier, but I don't. Maybe it's a generational thing. I don't know. But when I look at a timepiece that is digital, I read the time so much faster. It's like, there's the time. When you see it in an analog way, you have to do a little bit of decoding. Now, again, I'm not saying this applies to everyone, and it probably depends on how you grew up. But it's like when you go from digital, it's like digital readout to digital in your brain. And analog, it's like it has to first be translated to digital, and then you can read it. Like, you can't just look at it. You have to say to yourself, okay, what time is it saying? So you're like, okay, 10:07. Okay, If it just says 10:07, you don't have to do that initial calculation. Again, I'm not saying this is the case for everyone, but it is the case for me.
All right, tell us more about your first watch.
Okay, so you remember there was an article we published a while ago that I wrote after my father passed away?
Yes.
There was a picture in there, I don't think it's first, I think it was like Father's Watch, of me double wristing it. Me as a chubby 8-year-old, I don't remember like exactly how old, but I was in the ocean and I was wearing 2 watches. And I found this picture, and it reminded me that there was a time that I was wearing 2 watches, and it was like I really was an incredible watch nerd from very early on.
That's a cool picture. I remember the picture. Let me look it up somewhere.
I was also covered in seaweed. So I had these Ziploc bags full of just like watches that like I couldn't get working again. I kept them for years, and I looked for them, and someone must have thrown them out. Did you ever do that? You had like a watch that stopped working and you just never got rid of it?
Yep, I have a bunch of them here.
You still have them all? You're too stubborn. You're like, someday I'll get. There it is.
Yep, Ariel.
double wristing it. Now, okay, if you look closely, look at the watch on my right wrist. You see, I was very into these protectors.
What was that? Was that like specifically made for the watch, or you just put something on there?
No, it was made for the watch. Looking back, it was really ugly, but that was made for the watch.
Yeah, I see that it fits. I just wasn't sure if it's like some sort of like a spring or something that you put on. That's really funny.
So what watch? That's a Casio, obviously.
Yeah.
Is that one of those F90 whatever those things
It
are?
looks like it. It looks kind of like
it. I never even knew I had one of those, especially with that. It was pink, by the way. I was very fashionable at this I don't even think I was 8. I must have been 6 years old here. What's the other one? What's the other watch? Because I clearly had the preference on my left wrist there.
some blue, like I'm not even sure. It's not a G-Shock. It looks something. It could be like another.
No, I didn't have a G-Shock until I was in high school.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That
it could
I know
be
for sure.
Like we saw here. There's a bunch of like classic Casios that look like G-Shocks, but are not.
You know what the funny thing is? Those are watches from the 80s, and you can still buy watches from the 80s produced today by Casio.
Yeah.
But they were literally from the 80s in terms of the design.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
you know, I didn't even want to wear those watches, but I was double wristing at 6 years old. What is that? Is that a weird thing, or do a lot of kids wear 2 watches on their wrist at a young age?
I think the question here is whether or not you were doing that like a lot of the times, like frequently. If this is a one-time thing, then that happens, I guess, many times. But not many kids.
Okay, I was going swimming in the ocean. Why would I choose that opportunity to wear 2 watches? So I was like, you know what I really need while swimming? 2 watches.
Well, just to be safe, if one fails and you're doing your diving and all that, you know, like you have to be like.
I'm wearing seaweed, okay? I don't think I was diving.
Clearly not. I was just joking. But yeah, this is
clearly,
funny.
yeah.
So how did you evolve from this into a man who prefers a two-tone Datejust? How did that happen?
Well, I don't wear the two-tone Datejust all the time. I wear,
Oh, do you not?
Plenty of digital watches. I have a soft spot for digital watches. I do. It's like when no one's looking, I'm like, I'm going to wear a digital watch now.
No one's judging you, Ariel. You're safe here.
I think I'm going to bring back the digital watch. I think there's going to be place for digital watches again.
Yep. I mean, they never really went away, did they?
Digital watches?
Yeah.
Well, of course they didn't go away.
Well, I mean, in the luxury segment, clearly they really have not much room. I mean, there's the Omega X33 or whatever.
Oh, in the luxury segment? Oh,
forget about it.
Because they don't have the sex appeal.
I mean, not.
What, you think it's not about that?
That's like suggesting that all analog watches are sexy. A bunch of these watches are not sexy at all. So on this basis, they could be digital.
There's a perception of cheapness and utility in a lot of digital watches. It's not true across the board, but there's plenty of cheap, utilitarian digital watches. And that kind of goes in the face of a luxury watch is supposed to be like a little bit excessive and classy.
Yep.
I mean, I've never heard anyone say that the new X33 is like a sexy watch. It's cool looking for sure, and maybe it's about as sexy as it can be. I was never into this mixture of analog hands with a digital back. I always felt like go one way or another. Did you have any watches that you wished you owned as a kid? Like you remember?
It's a good question. I for long wanted the G-Shock, but I could never decide which one I liked so much to buy with my own money. You know, that was a problem. For the longest time, it was very difficult for me to find, because whenever I went into these stores and they had like hundreds of the damn things, and I was like, how am I going to pick? This was obviously before I was into watches. How do I pick one that I like and that has, you know, solid functionality, etc. So I never really picked up for a long time a G-Shock, although I wanted one.
So G-Shock was like your thing. That was digital.
Yeah, definitely.
And when did you get into analog watches?
When I started getting into watches in general, many years ago, when I started attending college and I had a lot of time commuting every day, like spending 2, sometimes 3 hours on public transport, and I just wanted to read about something, and I just got over my previous hobby that I used to do for like several years, and I just chose watches from one day to the next, and then I started reading about them excessively. So yeah, it's and then it was watches, and obviously once you start reading about watches, you have to start reading about good watches, and good watches usually are analog. So that's when I got into analog watches. How did it go for you?
I again, up until I was 18 years old and I bought my first analog watch, I had no interest in analog watches of any kind. I remember for me, like a dream watch was one of those a Casio Pathfinder, which is now called ProTrek. And these were, because remember I told you I was like obsessed with like the number of functions. I just loved that the time was like big and easy to see. These things look cool as hell to me. And you know, the thermometer and compass and barometer, I had no idea what I was going to do with any of those features, but like these just like looked like incredible survival tools.
Yep.
And I just remember like
That's a cool watch.
begging my father to get me one. And he basically said like, no, they're $300. And you're a kid and you're going to break it. And you know, the thing is like I never lost a watch. I guess some broke, but they didn't break because I abused it. They broke because, you know, they're a watch. It's like, you know. So I never pushed it. I understood they were expensive. But man, did I want one for a long time. So this one you're looking at, this is the PAW. When is this review from? This is from a while. This is from like 2010 maybe?
Yeah, it's an old picture, you can tell.
Look at what I wrote here in this thing. This actually, I don't remember saying this.
Boyhood Dream. It
dream
actually
come
says...
true.
It says Boyhood Dream right there on the picture, so...
Boyhood dream come true. This is from 2009.
Oh, that's funny. Holy crap, almost 10 years ago, jeez.
So Casio sent me one of these to review, and I was so thrilled. I was like, oh my god. I was so happy getting this watch. So freaking happy getting this watch.
That's a cool piece. That's a cool watch. Moon phase and tide graph in all caps. I like the legibility.
Oh man. Those little lists of features, that's not new. That had been going on since the 80s.
I know.
And I would just read it and be like, wow, I'm going to know. Like, I was like a little gear obsessed kid.
Yeah.
I was freaking obsessed with this stuff. I had no idea what I would do with any of it, but I knew that if I was going to go to these places that I had in my mind, I was going to need to know the tides of some place.
And yeah, that's true. The altitude measures from minus 700 up to 10,000 meters. How cool is that?
This is still my favorite Pathfinder of all time.
Really?
Yeah. Titanium bracelet. Like really clear. This is cool looking.
It's cool. I prefer those with a little bit like a brighter display. This looks like okay, so this is bright display as well. That's really cool. It has to be said. Triple sensor.
Look, it has a permanent moon phase on the dial even, and you see at the bottom that really cool tide chart.
Yes. Oh God, I knew what they're doing.
So and like all the little numbers and text. I was just so into this.
It's cool. It's a cool piece for sure.
Yeah. It was light too. I remember I used to use this watch. I was like, I don't do this watch. So I used the chronograph on this watch to measure when I needed to go to the laundry room and get my laundry.
That's
That
a
was
useful
my, that was
feature.
my laundry watch. That's where I took it. Those were my adventures to the laundry room in my apartment building.
It's just good to know that that you feel like you could throw the watch in there with the laundry and it would be all right when you take it out.
I never even tried that, but now come to think of it. And so this collection's almost gone. So it's been replaced with this, which we also reviewed.
Yeah.
But it's just not the same, is it?
It clearly isn't. For you guys who are wondering, who are listening, we're looking at the Pro Track, which is, as Ariel mentioned, the newer version of the Pathfinder. It's just massive. It's high tech.
Well, we're looking at the WSDF-20, which is their smartwatch.
Yep. But it says Pro Track on it.
It does, but the WSDF-10, which was the first smartwatch they had, did not say Pro Track, and then they decided that maybe that's where the Pro Track collection should be.
I want to find the coolest Pro Track. I want to find me a Pro Track right now. Let's see if I can
find. You want a Pro Track?
Yeah, let's see if I can find one that I like. Hold on.
So I bought my first analog watch in Paris. I went to Paris when I was 18. I was in Paris alone. I remember that. I just went to Paris. I was in Europe for a bunch of reasons. But I went to Paris and I was on the Champs-Élysées. And I went to this watch store that I swear, I don't think it exists anymore. And I bought a watch that the brand that made it doesn't even admit they ever made.
What brand is this?
Citizen.
Well, I mean, they make hundreds and hundreds of different watches. Clearly they don't really Some watches actually escape from the factory. Apparently, they just.
No, we've heard this. There was such little organization, or whatever you call it, that there's brands today that you show them a watch they made. I'm not talking 100 years ago. I'm talking I don't know, 20 years ago. And they're just no, we never made that.
Imagine showing a car to VW and them saying, "Oh, we never made this car."
That would never happen with the watch company all the time.
Yeah, clearly.
All the time.
I so wish. Oh my God, what would I give if I could have been there at that time at Citizen when they had no idea what they were doing in that regard. Just imagine going to work and someone would say, "Hey boss, I put this watch together. What do you think?" And it's fine. Should I document it? No, just make 500 of them and ship it out to the Champs-Élysées or wherever.
So I remember. So again, I've never seen the watch anywhere else. It was, you know how Citizen has their ProMaster collection of their sport watches. So this watch was a ProMaster. But it was not a sport watch in any way.
It was more of a master than a pro.
No, it was like a dress watch. It was a dressy chronograph. It wasn't even EcoDrive. Right now you just search for Citizen ProMaster.
Yes, because I wanted to see.
These are all dive watches, pilot watches. These are durable watches. This watch had a. It was an art watch. It had an angled crystal. Do you remember the watch? It had a crystal that was angled.
Wow.
It was a mineral crystal. Part of it's scratched, I think.
Of course it did. It's mineral.
I remember it had one of those. It had a metal bracelet, and it had the fold over deployant that doesn't lock. It's just a little tension clip.
Yeah.
And so when I would wear this watch and I would accidentally hit my wrist on something, not even hard, or put my hand on the table, the deployant would just open up. So I had to keep closing the watch all the time.
Isn't it hilarious when you Google something and then this is my wrist and this is my picture on a totally random website, watches for trade or whatever. It's just.
Imagine if we made money every time.
Oh my God!
Someone used one of our images.
Oh. Yeah, we'd be.
We would make royalties on every fake watch website.
Oh, just 10 cents per image. 10 cents for every single image. We'd be in the money. All right, let's see if I can find something.
So that was the first analog one, and then I wore that for 2 or 3 years straight, and and still to this day, I got more compliments from girls on that watch than anything else ever.
So that's
that really,
cheap magnet.
I guess it was a good experience. But looking back, and I was like, how is it that happened with a relatively? I remember what I paid for that watch. I paid like something like $124.
So that was a good investment.
Well, at the time when I was 18, that seemed like about as much as I could possibly fathom spending. That was the most expensive thing I bought that entire trip.
But it still was a good investment. That's what I'm saying. So I'm not saying it was cheap. It was a good investment. That's cool. I want a picture like this of myself.
You do?
All right.
You might have to wax your arm first.
Do I? Oh, that's not so funny.
So I think from the time I was like born to 18, I must have gone through, I don't know, maybe a dozen watches. Not that many.
Well, yeah, that you actually wore. I mean, you clearly have had more watches than that.
But the thing is, what I have to remind people, like, I wore a watch every single day. I would not leave home without a watch. It just didn't happen.
I'm not sure if, well, that has happened to me a few times before, but I hated it. It's really bad.
Did I tell you I just bought a vintage G-Shock from 1995?
Let's look that up, and then we can end it there because this is getting long. You did mention, but we didn't feature it in the podcast. So what's the reference of it?
I have no idea.
No idea.
It doesn't even say on there.
G-Shock.
No, I think you should type in G-Shock Bob Marley.
I just typed in G-Shock, no idea. Let's see what comes up.
I don't think you're going to find my watch by typing that. I think that's a very poor query. I wore a G-Shock every day throughout high school. The watch is somewhere on this page.
Isn't it this one? Is it a different colorway?
Not exactly. It might be like that. It's hard to tell.
So okay, let's give the kind people like some sort of a pointer of what we are looking at here.
It's Jamaican colors.
So technically, this is an actual original unmodified G-Shock called the G-Shock Bob Marley that has Jamaica's national colors on it. And what is special about the screen?
When you press the backlight, it displays a marijuana leaf.
And this is full factory, right?
Yeah, but a lot of them aren't. There was apparently aftermarket ones that weren't.
Oh, wow.
So look at that strap. Look at that. It's like a fabric. Like, that's a crazy strap. Look at that strap.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah, I like that.
Have you ever seen a G-Shock with that kind of strap before? I never have.
Does yours have the strap?
Yeah. That's the one.
That's pretty cool. How much did you pay for it, if you don't mind us asking?
I'm not going to talk about that. Not too much. When did you get your first G-Shock? Didn't I get you your first G-Shock?
You did.
I think I went to Japan and I got you your first G-Shock. I had to go to Japan to do it. Of course, I could just get you one here.
This is, I think it was, this one.
There it is. I still get jealous when I see that. I think that is such a great looking G-Shock.
Yeah, oh man, it's bonkers. I love it. It's the 5600 series. So basically, this is a white. This is the glossy white GWX 5600. If you don't know much, the 5600 is one of the base G-Shocks that you have to know. I love it. It's very, very close actually to the one that Kikyo Ibad, the guy who designed and invented G-Shock, wears.
He does like that case shape. I don't know what that case shape is, but he loves that case shape.
And I read it somewhere. I'm not sure where it was. Maybe it was like an Ask Me Anything or something that he did, where they asked how many watches he owns, and he said he owns two G-Shocks, and that's it.
Okay, so the guy that invented G-Shock owns only 2 G-Shocks?
Yeah.
Don't you find that slightly hard to believe?
No.
Really?
No. Here, look. Here he is wearing the watch. This is the one he's wearing is not the Glide or G-Lite or whatever. I would just call it Glide. It's not the Glide version. He's wearing. Oh man, I spent so long looking this up, but finally I found it. He wears a G5600 A7. So it's the 5600 case and strap and all that in glossy white.
I think that's a brilliant case design.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Oh,
I don't even know why.
It just feels good looking at it. When I look at it, I like it's proportions.
Do you want to know why I feel kinship to this man?
Why?
Because when you say his last name, it's eBay, and I started getting into watches because of eBay.
Okay.
Look, I can't make this stuff up. I truly feel this way.
Look at this.
I feel like it's a cosmic. I like your photography.
Thanks. This is a bit of a pain, but it actually worked out. It's one of the only gripes that I have about this watch is, well, I wish it had actually two gripes. I wish it had a positive screen, not a negative one. It looks cool like this. It has to be said, but legibility isn't great in all under all circumstances.
But it looks cool. You just answered why it exists.
It does look cool.
And what's the other gripe?
And the other is that the screen only lights up for 1.5 or 3 seconds and no longer. And I mean, this is a tough solar thing, so it's not like you can drain the battery out. So I wish it could just light up for like 10 seconds or 30 seconds, or I don't even know. That would be amazing if it would just stay lit up. It's 3 seconds and that's it. Maybe there's a way.
It doesn't sound like you have that many gripes, to be honest.
That's why I said I have 2.
Usually it's 85.
Usually it's the average number of gripes David has about a watch.
Usually a lot more.
Yeah, that's true. I like it. It's an awesome watch, and it's super affordable, durable. It's a great watch.
So what do we do? So I have a child now. I don't know what to get him to as his first watches. Like, I don't want him to repeat my life, but do I just get him a G-Shock?
A baby G.
But aren't those for girls, not actual babies?
That's disappointing.
Like, baby G should be for babies. Let's be honest.
False advertising. Yeah. Look at this. It's so cool.
Where's that picture that had your watch and my pink one?
It's right here. It was in Dubai.
Oh yeah, the water bottle. Without a watch, it's like, I'm so lonely.
I don't know what time it is. Oh yeah, so we're nerding out over G-Shocks here. But you see, this is the sort of stuff we like. I mean, we could be talking about anglage and finishing and the life that begins and ends at 36 millimeters, but that's not what we're doing.
No, I disagree with you. I could not talk about anglage.
You couldn't?
I could say what it is. Okay, here's my problem with the decorative techniques. I love how they look, but I know the repetitive motion required to create those polishes.
Yeah. And
I laugh when I think about someone polishing a watch. I just laugh thinking about their arm moving up and down for like a half hour. Like, I laugh in the sense that it's a beautiful thing that required a very silly motion to create. And maybe that's overthinking it, but
it kind of is, but it's still funny.
Because you and I like to laugh about what watchmakers do.
Yes, that's true. And watch brands, it's true. Look at what this watch is doing. It's flying through air. How many watches can you have do that? I was actually dropping.
Did you actually write a caption that wrote mid-flight?
Yes.
Were you trying to do that? Like, were you just trying to be like...
What?
David apparently has an unhealthy level of fun taking pictures of watches.
Well, actually, no. Not anymore.
It's a very healthy level of fun.
Fair enough, but yeah. So this is a cool piece. Buy one of these immediately if you want a good watch.
It costs $150, huh?
Yeah.
It was a lot more yen, I'll tell you that.
Well, that's funny.
Whole lot more yen.
Whole lot more yen.
I felt like I was buying you something really nice.
That's funny.
I was like, this is in the thousands? Get me one.
Oh well. That's nice of you. I appreciate it. This is a cherished possession for sure.
I have G-Shock strategically placed around my home.
That's good.
Seriously, I was opening up a drawer the other day. I'm like, why is there a G-Shock in here? You know what my worry was? My worry was the battery is gonna die.
You're a G hoarder.
A G hoarder. I have one of the new Gravity Master ones that has an app, and the app actually notified me. It's like, hey, the battery in your watch is about to die. Could you just like put it in front of light or something? I mean, it didn't say it like that casually, but it basically said that.
It gave you a direct order.
No, so the future is now that your phone will tell you when you need to put your G-Shock in light. I mean, I kind of like that in a really weird way.
Well, yeah, that's actually pretty cool. I'm looking forward to that happening. As long as it doesn't make like the user experience like tiresome. I mean, look at this. Like, how many different layers here, and it's like a friggin' solar panel in there, and I just love this thing.
I think there should be a legitimate Baby G. Now I'm talking about this. Okay, so we've spent about an hour truly rambling.
Yes.
Truly and honestly rambling. We wanted to talk about our first watches. What did this conversation turn into? Like, how do we even explain to people why they should listen to this rant of ours?
There's not much to be explained. We should just apologize and ask everyone to tune in next week when we come back with something more coherent.
Well, look, we're going to SIHH next week.
Yes. Oh, so there goes the coherence. It's gonna be incoherent just for the sake.
We're sort of like emotionally letting off steam right now because it's in the most optimistic of ways, explain the feeling that we have prior to going to one of these big watch shows.
I will. Oh, actually, you know what? All three of us, or how many of us are there in the meeting, or maybe more, we all should be wearing G-Shocks with the beep for the hour turned on. So it would be just beep, 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 like 4 or 5 watches. Protesting against the Swiss watch industry right there.
No one's ever heard that sound there. They don't know what it is. What's that beeping?
Oh, that would be amazing.
You remember, was it last year or the year before when Piaget came out with their quartz watch, that their quartz kinetic?
Oh, that was
the Piaget kinetic.
A blatant copy of something else.
But the funny thing was, like, I've never heard of that watch again.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, it happened once, and then it's like, well, as it turns out, it's not really sustainable. We're not making it. I guess.
Click on our article. Did we ever do a hands-on on that?
No, we never saw it.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Look.
This was the Piaget Emperador Cousin
XL
700p with a quartz regulator.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
If you just looked at this thing, you'd have no idea. They did everything in their power to hide the fact that it was a quartz watch.
What is La Côte aux Fées?
La Côte aux Fées. That's a city. That's a small town where their high-end movements, and apparently this one, are assembled.
That's not very luxury, is it? Putting it all caps on there.
That is a bit strange. It's like they're doing everything in their power to apologize for it being quartz.
Yes, yeah. Oh, did we say yeah, that's so true. That's so freaking true. Oh my god. It's so true. Oh, they were going to make 118 of these. I want to just ring up a Piaget boutique and say, hey, I will take all the 117 off your hands, like. I will give you a good price. I love
the fact that Piaget made a quartz movement. I have no idea. Maybe we're going to see this watch again. $70,800.
Such a beautiful price. Such a random... just.
Okay, my theory is that they price them randomly to make it seem like there was a system. Like, if it was just 70,000, you're like, you know what? But if it's 70,800, you're like, you know what? We should make a random watch price generator.
Here, this is how the Swiss pricing industry works. Oh, 77,100.
So, okay, that's interesting.
Okay. Well, maybe. Okay, we sold 3. We still have 117 in stock. Let's generate another one. Oh, it's 53 now.
Okay, we want to know from the audience what your first watches were. Or some of the first watches you remember, and how that may have translated into your current taste. Like, are your current tastes totally different, or like were your tastes as a watch lover more or less set from an early age? And if you don't want to participate in that, you can just play with a random number generator like David is.
I'm having amazing fun here. Actually, I'm realizing I've for you guys listening, I've set the minimum amount at 50,000, the maximum at 80,000. And anytime I click on generate, this very beautiful
You get
button,
a watch brand price.
I actually get a number that I've seen with a dollar sign in front of it.
Look, it's entirely possible. I think that's what happens. Like, somebody will be like, hey, we really think this watch will only be 50, and someone's like, no way, 80. And then they go do this and be like, oh, that sounds about right.
You see, this is how it works.
A lot of these really do look like watch prices. Okay, everyone. This has been an episode of Spending Time with Ariel and David Breton.
Yep.
You just found the page not found on Piaget. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye, everyone.